What was that? Explain. What the hell was that? What was that finish? Wow. Welcome back everyone to the episode. Holy crap. What this race was, I don't even call this a race. There was barely any actual racing. There was a lot of wrecking. Barely any racing and a whole lot of wrecking. I just want to begin this video with 6 laps ago because that is when we really went off the deep end with some of the moves that we're making. So a caution came out with 6 laps ago with Christopher Bell. Flat spotted the tires a few turns ago, and then on the front straightaway, tire explodes, debris then ends up on the front straightaway, bringing out the caution. And we knew that restarts on the Indy Road Course is chaotic because drivers, for some reason, when it comes to restarts on the Indy Road Course, drivers just take their brains and throw it out the window. Because Joey Logano, I'm sorry, but the biggest clown, that's probably one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen this year. Joey Logano, for now, is the biggest clown of the year for the move he made. Because there was literally no reason, there was no way he was going to come out of this alive, or at least without causing damage. So we restart. You know, Reddick on the left side of your screen, Chase Elliott on the outside, pretty civil. Then Truex, Todd Gilliland, they spread out. But look at Logano behind Austin Dillon on that yellow shell Pennzoil car. Look what he does. Goes to the inside of Dillon. Then for some reason goes to the inside of Truex and then just causes complete calamity. Takes out 4 or 5 cars. Elliott gets spun, Byron is spun around, Briscoe and Kyle Busch then gets spun around. And then a little bit later on, Eric Jones then goes over the curb, hits the grass over contact with Ty Dillon, he spins, then Truex gets into Dillon, Dillon spins, Dillon gets into the gravel and is stuck there. And because Dillon is stuck there, he brings out the caution. Now the reason why that Elliott spun is because, you know, William Byron and Blaney, they broke into turn number 1 very hard, and Blaney just clipped the right rear of Chase Elliott, sending him around, which was very unfortunate because Elliott seemed to have one of the fastest cars. At the very least, he was the only driver that could contend with Tyler Reddick because Tyler Reddick was unstoppable today. So then we go into NASCAR overtime. Now it's Tyler Reddick and AJ Allmendinger that are now on the front row. And again, this is one of those what were you thinking type of moments with our boy Ross Chastain. Wasn't a clown move, but it was very, very questionable. So now this restarts a lot more civil. Reddick puts a block on Blaney and Suarez, but look at Chastain on the right side. He doesn't even attempt to make the corner. He just goes straight off. Doesn't even bother trying to make the corner. Meanwhile, Suarez pushes Blaney and Allmendinger off track. AJ then turns Blaney, creates a whole traffic jam in front of the field. And when we cut back to the race leader, Chastain is side by side with Reddick. And yet, somehow, at this point in time, NASCAR told us nothing. They told us nothing. So when Chastain took the lead, we're thinking he's the actual race leader. And then so Allmendinger, then Reddick and Chastain, they battle very hard on the mini front stretch on the infield. Reddick to the outside of Chastain, then puts a crossover move. Reddick to the inside, then Chastain pushes him out wide. This was a really nice battle between the two, but Reddick, clearly, he had the faster car, but we were all wondering, is Chastain the actual race leader? Because NASCAR has said nothing up to this point. He still has said absolutely nothing. So we're all thinking Chastain is the race leader after cutting the corner, but Reddick gets to the outside of Chastain. Still, he can't get by him. Somehow, Reddick able to get on the outside again on the final few corners and is able to get by Ross Chastain, and Reddick is able to scoot away to win the Indy Road Course, his second career Cup Series win and the second win of his career. Both of his wins has taken place on road courses. Let's take a look at the results. So Tyler Reddick, like I said, he wins from the pole. Austin Cindric, because Chastain and Austin Dillon, they were both penalized with 30-second time penalties, I believe it was. Dillon in second. Harrison Byrne, the rookie, in third place. Another rookie, Todd Gilliland, in fourth. And how about Bubba Wallace, who usually sucks on road courses, ends up being the highest running Toyota, finishes in 5th place for his 3rd consecutive top 10 finish this year. Really good stretch. The last few races has been for the 23 team. Joey Logano, somehow that clown finishes in 6th. AJ Allmendinger. Allmendinger's a warrior, I must say, because Allmendinger struggled Not from the car, but basically with his body. I mean, AJ was struggling. I don't have footage of this, but there were moments, like, he basically had no water in his cool system. There was an issue with that, so he wasn't getting any water, and there was a point during late in the race, I think it was just a few laps ago, where the camera cut to AJ, and he was out of water, and you could tell he was physically exhausted. And when he got out of the car, it was like the life just went out of him. He collapsed on the wall. His team and his family members came over to him, put ice and, cool towel on his neck and his head to cool him down. AJ's a warrior. I mean, because you could visibly see he was suffering in that car, and he was just begging just to finish the race. So the fact that he's able to get 7th place out of that in the condition he was in is incredibly impressive. Michael McDowell in 8th place, another top 10 finish for him. Cole Custer in 9th. Cole Custer spun earlier in the race, finished in 9th place. And Chris Buescher was on fire. I'm not kidding. Buescher was on fire. Take a look at this. This happened earlier in the race in stage 1. We didn't know exactly what caused the fire, but we just cut to Chris Buescher, smoke coming out of the inside of his car, and Chris Buescher was still in the car when fire was taking place, engulfed in smoke around him, and he somehow finished in 10th. Kyle Busch with that spin finishes 11th. Christopher Bell somehow finishes in 12th after that damage. Stenhouse 13th. Denny Hamlin had a very interesting day. I mean, he spun numerous times. I think 2 or 3 times he spun. He even went off course in turn number 1 at one point during the race, and he somehow finished in 14th place. Eric Jones 15th. Elliott, who had a top 5 car, finishes in 16th. Unfortunate for him. 17th is Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs, again, was basically just... he just basically was able to keep his nose clean somehow and, didn't get into any trouble. Joy 18th, Haley 19th, and Brad Keselowski rounds out the top 20. Other notables, Truex Jr. 21st, Briscoe finishes in 23rd after he was involved in that chaotic mess. Blaney 26th, like I said, Chastain 27th, Suarez 28th, Joey Hand 29th, and Austin Dillon rounds out the top 30. William Byron, Alex Bowman, Kevin Harvick 31st, 32nd, 33rd. Kyle Larson, we're going to talk about him, in 35th, as well as Ty Dillon. They both suffered hellacious accidents. Daniel Kivat from Formula 1 finishes 36th, and Eric Almirola finishes 38th. For the playoff grid after the Indy Road Course, now Tyler Reddick becomes, I guess, his second career win now, has 12 playoff points to his name. Nothing much has changed. Ryan Blaney and Truex Jr., they're still the last 2 drivers in without a victory. 121 for Blaney, 196 for Martin Truex Jr. Harvick, he had a bad day, is now 96 points below the cut line. Eric Almirola minus 156, Eric Jones minus 175. And Bubba Wallace, again, has some really strong runs these last few weeks, is now in 20th in standings, but 213 points below the cut line. Okay, so I want to explain everything that happened. And it's quick, but wow. Stage 1, just... I don't have the video footage of it, but stage 1 was this. Lap 1, we went 5 wide, because of course you do. On that first lap, Justin Haley spun. Then on the straightaway in the infield, Denny Hamlin spun all by himself. Bubba Wallace and Chris Buescher, they slammed into each other in turn 1. And then Buescher hit Ross Chastain, which sends Chastain around. Then on lap 6, a little bit later on, Keselowski didn't even bother trying to make the corner. Turn 1 just completely goes off track. He wasn't the only one. Denny Hamlin, same thing happened with him. Then Chastain dive bombed and slammed into Joey Hand. I believe this also in turn number 1. Chase Elliott absolutely then by himself just lost the car, spun by himself. We talked about Chris Buescher catching on fire. And then when the stage break was over, Tyler Reddick led every lap except with 2 to go when he pitted, giving to lead to Chase Briscoe, who won the stage. After that stage happened, someone's tent flew onto the racetrack right in front of Cody Ware. And he had to come to a complete stop or else he was going to hit a tent. That happened in stage 1. That all happened in 15 laps. There was barely any, again, I can't talk about the racing because there was barely any racing, like actual positions for, great battles going on because everyone was just wrecking. Stage 2, 5 wide wasn't good enough. Screw it. Let's go 6 wide into turn number 1, shall we? Someone has got to spin and end up being Kevin Harvick. And of course, Denny Hamlin's the one that hits him. Alex Bowman then cut a tire probably from that whole mess over there. Comes onto pit road. Eric Almirola then just drives into the side of Kyle Larson and both go off track. Larson goes to pit road for repairs while Eric Almirola takes it to the garage, is done for the day. Then in a 2-in-1 combo, AJ Allmendinger went off course in turn 4, but he kept it going. He wasn't stuck in the gravel. And Harrison Byrne locked up the brakes and spun and collect Cole Custer in turn 1. That all happened in 20 laps. Up front, again, if you're up front, you were golden. Christopher Bell won the stage. I mean, I believe Blaney, though, led majority of the stage. Blaney, Reddick, Cindric, and a whole bunch of drivers pitted with 2 to go. Bell won the stage. Stage 3 was very civil. It was a civil restart. There was a lot of bumping and banging expected, but no one spun around. Everyone kept it going straight. Bell and Bubba Wallace, who stayed out for stage 2, they kept on going. And then finally, the first actual battle for the lead took place until 33 laps to go. With Bell and Tyler Reddick. Reddick, who pitted later than Bell, was able to take advantage of his fresher tires, take the lead, but then both drivers came onto pit road at the same time 1 lap later. Reddick got out ahead since he had to take less fuel than Bell. Then 20 laps ago, a hellacious accident took place again in turn number 1. Larson lost his brakes and flies right into the right side of Ty Dillon at around 120 miles an hour, destroying both cars. Luckily, both of them were okay, but it was an incredible hit. It looked like Larson just flew in. He came in out of nowhere. There was one camera angle where you just see Ty Dillon. Larson just flies out of nowhere and just body slams him, just takes him out. Like I said, both were okay. Larson checked on Ty Dillon to make sure he was all right. Then after that crazy restart, you had Alex Bowman and Kevin Harvick, who were involved in an accident with Joey Hand. And both drivers, Bowman and Harvick, they were taken out of the race. They had too much damage, and they pulled off track and were done for the day, as well as Joey Hand. So that's why they are positioned so far low on the list. There's also a couple moments I should point out. Number one, Joey Logano. Something happened after the race. Smoke came out of his car, pulled off on the turn number 1 on the access road, got out of the car. He was okay. Then Ryan Blaney spun out Daniel Suarez as a result of that overtime finish when Suarez pushed Blaney off track, but that was because Austin Cindric got into the back end of Suarez, sent Suarez into Blaney. So it was a chain reaction, and Blaney didn't know the full story. But yeah, listen, I may be the majority with this one. I may be in the minority with this one, but I didn't think it was a good race. I thought it was extremely entertaining, but I didn't think it was a good race in the sense that every 5 seconds or so, someone was spinning, someone was off course, and it was very entertaining. And it showed how difficult the car was to drive, but I'm talking about actual racing, actual battles on the racetrack. You barely saw any of that until very late in the race. There was really only one battle between Bell and Reddick. I think it was Bell and Reddick with 33 laps to go. That was it. Other than that, if you were out in front, you were basically golden. I don't know, the theme of this race, it was just chaotic. It was flat out chaos, and I understand it was very entertaining, but again, when you talk about what the actual racing did you like from it, I don't think you can say really much of it. At COTA, there was a lot of fun racing. It was some really good battles, but you had cars just running into each other, just wrecking each other. It was absolute chaos. If it was more of a shit show rather than an actual race, it felt like, especially very late in those last few restarts where I still don't understand, and I wish we had an interview with Logano. I never understand why he decided to go inside again, because he was behind Truex, I think. Then for some reason went to the inside of Truex and make it 6 wide. There was no way that was gonna work. They were just slamming into each other, wrecking each other. 7 cars were going off course. It wasn't as bad as last year's finish, but I don't know. Me personally, I'd rather have a boring race at Indy than an absolute shit show of a race at Indy that makes the sport kind of look like a joke. I don't know. I thought this race was kind of like a joke, especially at the end of the race, because it seemed that everyone just took their brains and flown it out the window and thought, let's just wreck each other. And whatever happens, happens. But I'm so glad that Tyler Reddick won this race, because he had the fastest car. And I would have been very pissed off, especially when Ross Chastain, I need to talk about him, because in his interview, he mentioned how he tried to turn right as much as he can, but couldn't, and decided to go off to the access road. Which, that was complete BS, because he didn't even bother attempting to turn right. He got on the brakes and then just took off, which made no sense. Okay, fair enough, but he didn't even bother to attempt to make turn 1. But he completely went off track, came back on the course, and NASCAR didn't say anything. We were getting no reports from NASCAR on these final 2 laps, and we were all thinking, is Ross Chastain in actual contention to win this race? Because no one said anything. He was battling with Reddick. No one said a damn thing, and we were all thinking, oh my god, he's actually in shot to win this race. Finally, we got confirmation that he had a time penalty, but it was so late. It was after the checker flag when they announced this, but listen, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority this one, but I just felt like it was very entertaining, but again, you couldn't take it seriously for an actual race just because it just felt like everyone was just trying to wreck each other. They were all just taking each other out. Again, tell me about the moments of the race that you thought were exciting. They were all wrecks. They were all wrecks. They were all wrecks. Not a single moment about actual racing or actual passing. It was just a bunch of wrecks. But again, very entertaining. But by the end of it, I was just like, oh my god, just end this race already. This is a travesty. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. What did y'all think of the race? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this. Congratulations to Tyler Reddick. I mean, man, they're building up some momentum heading into the playoffs. I mean, winning at Road America a few weeks later, winning at the Indy Road Course, a lot of momentum on their side, especially with Tyler Reddick. 2311 Racing, Denny Hamlin and MJ, they made a damn good move by getting Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick, I think, is a generational talent. He can be a star in the Cup Series, and they made a damn good move in getting Tyler Reddick. And when he goes in 2024, he's going to be finally in some good equipment because Reddick is carrying RCR on his back. Because look what his teammate is doing. Not much. He's too busy filming a reality show. But yeah, that's it for this episode. What y'all think of the race? Again, tell me in the comment section down below. Congratulations to Tyler Reddick, your winner at the Indy Road Course.